this is Vlad Stoyanovsky. You may have heard us talk about how IBM is open for data. Today, I'd like to talk to you about what that means in terms of enabling you to make better, smarter, faster decisions that improve your business outcomes and ultimately even better life outcomes. If you've seen some of my other videos, you'll notice that I like to use education, K-12, higher education to illustrate the potential of analytics technologies. And I like using this vertical or industry because we've been to college, or we may have children that are in college or that are prospective college students. And ultimately, when we talk about improving business outcomes and improving outcomes for those students, we're actually talking about improving their life outcomes potentially. So with that, let's talk about some of the things that universities care about and some of the things that students care about. So here we have our university. And down here we have our prospective student. And she's trying to decide which schools to apply to. On the university side, some of the things that are top of mind are, what is the percentage of students that will enroll out of those that we admit? So percentage that will enroll. And then how many of those will actually graduate? Super important for a school. Furthermore, how many of those will graduate in under 6 years? So years to graduate, hopefully under 6 years. Now these sorts of metrics don't only impact the financial health of our university, but they also impact rankings with organizations such as the US News and World Report, Financial Times, and others. And these rankings are super important for us as a school. And ultimately, even the federal government will look at some of these metrics as they review access to financial aid for our university. So really the question is, who to admit? And what also underscores this point is that every school can afford to be selective. So it's not only the Ivy Leagues, but it's really even the lower tiers of schools that receive more applications than they have room to enroll students. So even the less selective schools can still afford to be selective and decide who is the best fit for our institution. And in this process, we have a number of different personas, as in every other organization. So we have admissions officers, and these are more analogous to citizen scientists. They know what they want out of their data, but they may not necessarily know where to get it or how to interrogate it. We have financial aid officers. These are usually more data savvy, so these are more akin to your business analysts. And then there's also institutional research. Every university has an office like this. They crunch all sorts of statistics, so this is where our data scientists usually reside. So how do we go about analyzing our business and making decisions, such as who to admit? There's a couple of different approaches. So usually we have a business intelligence technology. And this business intelligence tool usually sits on a data warehouse and maybe other data sources as well. Now, in addition, we have a number of custom applications that are typically used for more advanced analytics. So we may have an app here, an app here, and here, and these may be doing things such as predicting which students are likely to graduate, projecting things into the future, and other statistical algorithms. And these may be sitting on Hadoop, for example. Some of them may be written in R, and yet others are sitting on top of black box-ish type proprietary magic, such as SAS code. Now, when you look at this picture, there's a number of questions that pop up. There's questions around data governance, in other words, trusting your data. This also presents a very rigid and inflexible picture. And also you can see that each application here accesses different data. So there's lots of data movement, and again, that circles back to data governance as well. Now let's go back to our student. As our student decides to submit an application, and this application can take multiple formats. There is paper applications and there's multiple digital type of formats. Many universities have their own apps where you can submit an application, you can go to their website. There's common applications that send your application to multiple universities. And with this intended flexibility come challenges. And these challenges are in part because of the rigidity and inflexibility of our backend architecture. So here's an example from a US News and World Report about technical glitches. So we have to ensure that our application is always up and running, it's always available, and it's scalable for peak loads. So when a student spends potentially hours working on their application form and then decide to submit it, they're not going to get an error message and have to start all over again. Now, in addition, there was an excellent op-ed column just yesterday in the New York Times titled "Rethinking College Admissions." And it raised some excellent questions. And one of them is, how do we glean into the personality of the student? And this sort of qualitative analysis is difficult. It's not just looking at GPAs and SAT scores and ACT scores, but it's really trying to get a more holistic picture of the prospective student. So, in other words, let's say this prospective student of ours submits an essay about helping others and about volunteering. How do we know whether that's heartfelt or whether that student is simply trying to game the system and get into the right university? So our student is frustrated because they were not able to submit their application online, they had to start all over again, and it makes us wonder, what is the better way? Is there a better way? And if so, is cloud the answer? Is SaaS the answer? Even if it is, it's probably not in a lift and shift type scenario, because then you end up with the same rigidity, same lack of flexibility. So let's talk about how we can improve the experience and the outcomes for everyone involved here. So our student has multiple ways to apply to the university. We mentioned that almost every university has a mobile app, or maybe multiple apps out there. Web forms. Paper is still king. So we'll still have lots of paper involved in the application process. Not only application forms, but also recommendation letters, essays, etc. How do we make this process smooth and efficient? Especially since we may be getting applications from many sources, including common application platforms which multiple universities subscribe to. The answer to that is Cloudant. Cloudant is our NoSQL document store that assures that the student will never lose the application they're working on. And also, it doesn't matter what structure the application is in. We don't have to worry about how we're going to store that data. What about all this paper though? For that, we're going to use DataCap in the cloud. And DataCap is not only able to read OCR, optical code recognition, but it's also able to read handwriting, and even better, there's a feature called cognitive capture. And what cognitive capture can do is it can understand and categorize what's written. So if you think back to that essay that the student was asked to write, is the essay about a personal accomplishment or about a problem they solved, maybe helping others, dealing with failure? DataCap cognitive capture can read through that and categorize it appropriately. Now let's talk about the next step in this application journey. Unstructured or semi-structured data is difficult to analyze. And if you've invested in a technology like Workday, you'll understand that it's not easy to report off of. With Cloudant, however, you can just push a couple of buttons and Cloudant will move this data into DashDB. And DashDB is our cloud-based analytical store. Now, as I said, we can just push a couple of buttons and Cloudant will create the data structures, the tables in DashDB, and move that data over. Or if we want full control over how that data gets moved in and where it moves to, we can use IBM DataWorks. Again, in the cloud, DataWorks gives us full flexibility in refining that data, transforming it, and loading it into a format that's suitable for us. An example, maybe a star schema. Additionally, we can move data from our student information system, from our ERP system, into DashDB, and use these data to analyze the incoming applications more holistically. Now, we talked about trying to figure out the personality of a particular applicant. So for that, we'll use Watson's cognitive capabilities. Again, in the cloud, Watson has dozens of cognitive KPIs that are ready to be called upon. So what we'll do is we'll call Watson for help, and more specifically, we'll call the Personality Insights API. And Watson Personality Insights will read through our essay and give us some information on the personality traits of that prospective student. Now that we have everything we need to start our analysis and make our decisions, let's circle back to our different personas within the organization. So here's our university personas. We have admissions, financial aid, data scientists, and institutional research. So we'll start with Watson Analytics. Watson Analytics allows anyone to explore and predict using natural language processing. So this is perfect for those citizen scientists that may be admissions officers that know exactly what they need out of their data, but don't really know where to get it or how to manipulate it. Then there's Cognos Analytics. And Cognos Analytics will provide the dashboards and the reports, so really the business intelligence capabilities, various alerts that I, as a user, can set up myself. So really more of a pre-canned, pre-built analytical capabilities that are often mission critical. And finally, we have our data scientist workbench. And it offers the greatest amount of flexibility for a data scientist. So I can, for instance, create Jupyter notebooks, mix and match code written in R, Python, Scala, and all of this, in all of these different front-end capabilities, is made possible with the built-in power of Spark. So now, as our student submits their application form and they're happy because they had no trouble in the process, I can quickly see that they're an out-of-state applicant that intends to be a commuter to our school, and start thinking about things such as, is this student likely to get homesick because they're not living on campus and they're out of state and leave after the first semester? Is this the kind of student that I want to admit? Help me make that prediction. And in a future video, my team and I will demonstrate how these technologies work together to generate these insights in a timely and repeatable manner. Thank you for watching today.